All right. And for the start of the meeting,
It's gonna be fine.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everyone, and we'll start with audience introductions. Stacy, do you want to start?
Stacy Gilbert, great meet there, board there. Heidi Connolly, Director of Special Services for the district.
Katie Logan, Director of Building Grounds and Transportation. Charlie Swan, Principal at DES.
Sarah Anderson, Athletics and Activities.
I didn't hear that. Okay.
Yeah.
Olaf Johnson, co-coach of Speech and Debate Team.
And volunteer, coach for speech and debate. Funny volunteer, junior at Dearborn High School.
Welcome, everyone. It's like an owl staring at me. Ooh. All right, we do have some adjustments to the agenda. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second? All right. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? It's approved. Consideration of the minutes of the February 11th, 2025 board meeting. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Comments, questions, revisions? Typo, Julie, on the bottom.
Oh, yep, sorry,
I just happened to
we'll
notice.
fix that one.
Which typo did you see?
The second on the motion about the minutes.
Oh, I'm looking at the typo on the board member comments.
Okay,
The comment I made as a Region 9 board member, I presuming it meant he thanked the region RSU56, not be thanked.
Let me find it.
Board member comments. third
Yeah.
page, Very last sentence.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We'll get that.
And
No big deal.
So
Kathleen,
consideration of the minutes. Kathleen had questions about item 5 on the board survey. It doesn't say Natalie. It doesn't say the revised wording
show me where, what page?
at the bottom of the first page.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So I objected to the unbalance of political views in the library. And we strive for balance. And in the original minutes, the political views weren't addressed.
So what we need is another copy of the one you wanted revised. No, you didn't want these revised, you wanted the one that we looked at, the January 28th minutes.
Yes,
Okay, so we just need another copy to see that that was revised.
yes.
Okay. Any other comment, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oppose, abstain, abstain. Oh, huh?
Bruce was thinking.
Okay, so he abstained too. Sorry, taking a layer off. All right. Public comments. This is the time for the public to make a comment. When they're all, they're all employees or the kids who. All righty, communication. I have no new communication. All righty. Old business, Region 9, anything go?
We have not met since the last time we talked, but I just want to thank everybody for coming in and visiting and seeing Region 9. Hope everybody enjoyed the tour of the new buildings. We haven't got any answer on what's going to occur on our buildings yet, but we're working forward towards it. And I will assure you, they will open it sometime once we get this problem solved.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, next is a request for an overnight trip to the Nationals for speech and debate. You guys want to come on up to the podium?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Great, volume check here. Okay. Yeah, so they did it again, another trip. We made the stipulation that we were only gonna take the students that either qualified for the nationals or got alternate status, so they decided to go ahead and everyone did.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so, yeah, we're going, the whole team is headed to Chicago on Memorial Day weekend, with your permission. We've done extremely well this year. For every single tournament that we've gone to, we've had at least one student come back with medal. And I'm very happy to state that we are now a charter school for speech and debate, recognized by the National Speech and Debate Association.
Yay.
Very, very happy about that. The kids put in a lot of work, and the growth that they've done this year has just been amazing. Absolutely fantastic to watch. Now, we have some money in the budget for the trip, but we're gonna need a little bit more. So we'd like to ask for permission for fundraising, and if we could get a van to drive out there. There'll be 4 students, myself and Miss Pelletier will be going, and possibly another chaperone, Diane Ray. She's not entirely sure about her schedule yet, but the number of people just makes flying just not possible. So we're gonna have to drive.
Questions?
I think we should approve it.
Okay, who's driving? You?
Yes,
Bruce?
So you're asking for the district to supply a van for you to take.
correct.
I guess I'll turn a quick question to Kenny. Do we have a van that we would allow them to take that will supply enough people on it?
We can do that.
And one that's.
Safe.
Okay.
Yeah, they took it last, same one last.
Okay,
Okay.
that's good.
Oh, the Pacific guy?
Yeah.
Nice. That's comfortable. We took that to Louisville, and that is a very comfortable van
Oh, good.
for that trip, for my back. Anyway.
Well, Chicago's not that far. Bruce?
Oh, well, I hadn't finished, so.
Oh, sorry.
Apologies.
So my follow-up is that you're looking for fundraising to do what? To pay for your transportation, hotel stays?
Hotel stays, food.
How much money are you looking for to fundraise?
Well, we're not exactly sure yet because we're not entirely sure who's able to go on the trip, and we still have a lot of planning to do. Where last year we flew, this year we're driving. It's just a whole different game.
Okay.
But there'll be lots of planning through for, I'm guessing probably a couple thousand that we're looking to raise, and we're looking through the standard methods, bottle drives, raffles, such on and so forth.
Okay, good, thank you.
See, no other questions to entertain a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor?
Go in.
Yeah.
Yes, congratulations, all of you, and have fun.
Thank you very much.
Good job, good job. Short and sweet, now you guys can go.
I forgot one thing.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Go Cougars.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
I said, go Cougars.
All right, next is Brian.
All right, so I'm here tonight to look for approval to dispose of or sell 15 65-inch TVs that we're taking down from a few of our classrooms that we've installed some of our Promethean boards that we've received through the last Russ grant. This year looking for approval to go ahead and do that.
Just TVs,
Yep, just the TV.
no iPads?
No, not this time. No, just the TVs, like I said, is, I believe, well, we're taking down 20, but I need to keep a few for spares for our other ones that are up.
Okay,
So I'm looking at taking those 15, and my preference is to do a staff sale first. I've had almost all of them. I've had more than 10 people reach out to me, so, I have a feeling that they will just the staff, but yeah, like I said, we've got 15 that I'm looking to get rid of.
any questions on this? Can I get a motion, please? So moved, second,
Second.
comments or questions, all those in favor?
Oh, I had a-
Oh, sorry, go
No
ahead.
big deal, I'm gonna approve it, but do you have a price tag on these things, or what are you doing, how are you doing this?
I'm ballparking, my guess right now is around 200 for the TV and the mount together. I gotta do a little research before we actually post it, but,
Okay,
that's a rough guess.
alright, yeah. There you go.
Oh, we all voted, did you vote? All of we got, all those in favor,
Thank you.
thank you, Brian. All right, Sarah, you're up next.
I think I'm back to back too, right? So I'm just gonna kind of blend it.
Oh, you want to?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the time of all the things are kind of, well, I shouldn't say that. They're wrapping up, ramping up all at the same time, which is pretty exciting. So to start for our winter recap, looking at our middle school basketball season, they had another great season with full rosters for both the boys and the girls programs. We didn't pull from the middle school to complete the boys roster, but we did for the girls. There were a handful that came from the middle school to participate.
From the elementary.
From the
I was
elementary
gonna
school,
say.
from fifth grade.
Yeah.
Yes. Both the boys and the girls program showed vast improvement from the start of their seasons. Both programs advanced to the Capital Area League playoffs, which was super exciting. They had some pretty tough matchups against bigger schools. A little bit of a challenge being a small school in a conference that includes Coney, Gardner, bigger programs, but they held their own really well. This is a really big group of kids that are coming in who have already started to express a lot of interest on how they can develop their fundamental skills beyond this season. So I'm expecting some building use requests coming in for them to get some additional practice. The Nordic skiing team, let me tell you, these kids tough it out. They are out there, it doesn't matter. They are middle schoolers, but you know, like the classic middle schoolers, they're too cold to wear jackets. No, these kids, they bundle up, they get out there. It doesn't matter how cold it is, how windy it is, as long as it's safe for them to be out there. They are out in our field at the farm skiing and loving it. They are a program who they participate in both freestyle skiing and classic skiing, which is two different styles. And they're usually out there participating with some pretty big smiles on their faces. This is a program that is a great blend of fun, hard work, and learning for them. Our wrestling middle school program just actually kicked off their season. It is a huge program this year. There has been an impressive number of kids that have come out for middle school wrestling this year, and there's been a large increase in female wrestlers. They actually had their first match this past weekend, and it was held right here at the high school. It was 5 different teams that were here, and they crushed it. We have upcoming meets that are going to be happening on March 5th and March 12th. Those are both Wednesday meets that will be happening at the middle school. And then on the 15th, we actually have one that will be another big meet here at the high school. So get out there and watch these kids. They work so hard. Unified basketball tonight was their first night of practice. I got to be there for a good portion of it, and I'm excited. They have 16 students who are participating at the middle school level, and most of their games this year were just going to be partnering up and playing with Mountain Valley, playing against Mountain Valley. Just ease of transportation, ease of flexibility, and making last minute changes if we need to based on how many kids we have on any given day. So those schedules will be coming up shortly as well. And then we have high school sports. We have cheering. They had a really good season this year. They have just 2 seniors, so the rest are all 10th graders and 9th graders who will be returning next year, which is really exciting to see this program who a handful of years ago, sparse numbers, starting to increase, starting to get a lot more excitement about. They made it to the regional championship, but they did not advance to the state meet. One fun thing to be able to see is their involvement on the sidelines of basketball games. They were there for more games this year than they have been in the past. And they've also ramped up some actual engagement from the fans with their cheers. They have a sideline one where they like do a prep. They go here and then they've got their basketball hoops and then the fans throw the pom-poms through and everybody loves it and it's super exciting and it's just, it's nice to see the engagement back and forth. It's not just them staying on the sideline, doing their thing. So, that's cheering. Boys basketball had a full mix of, competition this year. It seemed like for their schedule, they kind of had both ends. Some games were really close and some games were not so close. That we were on the winning side and some close ones, but there were a lot of games that kept everybody on the edge of their seats. The games that we lost were like within a couple of points and it was to the last minute. You didn't know who was going to win. It provided a really exciting season. Definitely showed a lot of hard work and I was impressed to see a lot of character that was built this year for our boys basketball program. They ended up finishing 8th with heel points. They won their prelim game, which we got to host here against Old Orchard Beach. And then they had an amazing game at the Augusta Civic Center against Mount Abram in the quarterfinals. They did fall short at the buzzer, but it was still an amazing year. There were great accomplishments. Nathaniel Wainwright, as I'm sure we've already talked about, I think I was actually in here for that board meeting after, hit his 1,000th point while he was in a away game at Booth Bay. And this is fresh off the presses. I don't know if it's actually been announced anywhere else yet, but Nathaniel and Dakota White both have been selected to the McDonald's All-Star team. So that's an exciting accolade for them. Our girls basketball program also had an outstanding season. They finished with a 10-8 record, and to compare that to last year, which was a 6-12 record, they landed in 10th place in the Hill Points, and their playoff games were so exciting. They traveled to NYA for their prelim game, which was a 3-point win, and it was only 1-point win during the regular season. So that was both exciting games against NYA. They went on to play at the Augusta Civic Center and won for the first time in 10 years the quarterfinal game. They landed, that win put them against a really tough matchup against Madison. They played with so much heart and it was so close. You know, as I was looking there, watching in the first quarter, we ended the first quarter ahead and it was so much excitement. I think that they might have been a little bit shocked that they were ahead at that point. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they do as we continue to come forward. Nordic skiing, they were a small but mighty team. They have dropped times, which doesn't sound, it's not usually what you want to see is things drop, but as far as things that are timed, yes, we want them to drop. Their times have gotten so much faster. They actually placed, and I don't remember off the top of my head if it was 3rd or 4th, I think it was 4th, in MVC, which we haven't done in years, in both classic and freestyle skiing. So that is really exciting. And another thing that I don't know if it's public yet, but I'm going to share it right here. Dave Buck has been named the NBC Coach of the Year.
Nice.
So that is exciting as well. They're skiing so much faster and their season's not over yet. They have a meet on Friday in Farmington. It's under the lights. And then they have another race next week at the main outdoor center, which is in Turner. Then next up, we have wrestling. They have come out and crushed this season, and they are also individually not done yet either. They were as team champions. They won the Hammerhead Championships. They won the NBC Champions, which is the first time that we've ever had an NBC championship. Mountain Valley Conference this year has incorporated wrestling as a recognized sport within the NBC because there's enough schools participating within our conference. Then they went on and won the Southern Maine Championship as well, which is awesome. Katie's Schedule and Tanner Berdeen both had 100 wins during the season. And then just this past weekend, Hudson Lufkin also hit his 100th as a sophomore, which is pretty unheard of. We had state champion was Katie's Schedule and Hudson Lufkin as well. They then went on, Hudson won the New England qualifiers last weekend as well, which puts him, what that means is they face up against all of the best wrestlers in the state, regardless of class. So he beat the top class A wrestler in the entire state. And they advanced on Katie's Schedule and Tanner Berdeen, Katie and Hudson. She's not looking. And Aurora Mallet. All are advancing to the New England qualifier because Aurora Mallet placed third in the girls wrestling, state wrestling meet.
Amelia?
Amelia. Sorry.
She does have a sister already. That's, you're getting to that age, so I love it.
Yeah, at least I do it to my own kids. And they're not even as close to her and her sister are in age. So anyway, yes, super proud of you. Super proud of our wrestlers. One thing this year, I've never been part of a wrestling program before, and I made a big intention to be at as many of their things as I could. And one thing I was really impressed with is their work ethic, but their compassion, and they are super respectful. They put it all out on the mat, but after they're done, they congratulate their opponent. They pick each other up off the mat. I'm super proud of our kids. They clean the gym up without even being asked. They pick things up. They put chairs away. They ask what else can they do. Our wrestling program is top notch, and it's beyond just their pins. So that is what we have. And then I don't need to talk about our amazing speech and debate program. They just did that. So exciting to see where they are headed as well. So that's kind of a recap, I think, of winter as fast as I could make all the awesome combined into a quick little speech. But does anybody have anything about that before I take a breath to talk about that?
Amelia, did you like the new uniform?
Yes, I will.
Yeah, so we did end up purchasing some female singlets, which are higher cut and a lot more comfortable, and they work pretty well because it's all they're crushing it.
Do we have in the budget for next year some new boys uniforms?
So uniforms go on a rotation that I'm gonna we have a boosters meeting coming up. And that conversation will be absolutely in that rotation, but obviously if there's a uniform that has a flaw to it that we need that fixed, we can get that fixed too. But there is some uniform repair in the budget also.
Okay, cool.
So. Yeah.
My only question is, and it wasn't you, is we know that budget is tight and things. Is the lovely Mountain Valley Conference, when they do the schedule, we should not be going to Valley. Valley shouldn't be coming here. We shouldn't be going to Kittery during regular season. Number one, the time thing. And this is long, and we play Mountain Valley once, we play this one once. It's not feasible.
Yes.
And their reasoning I knew was to get out of our league, to play non-league. But our league is one of the toughest leagues in the state for that Division C. Because as you see, usually if they're not, they get done, they're quick.
Right. So things that I've learned, which I am happy to share with you as well. So things that I've learned is those games that are beyond our Mountain Valley Conference schools are what are called crossover schools. And that's a 2-year commitment. It goes along with reclassification as well. So we're in a reclassification year this year, as we may know. That's a whole other story.
Which I didn't even bring that up,
Which
because I've already told you my thoughts. We're
talk
two
about it if you
hundred
want.
and ten students.
I will say I do have a meeting at the NPA tomorrow regarding reclassification as well, so we can keep you updated on that.
Okay.
But as far as what has happened, our coaches, what ends up happening basically is coaches make requests of who they would like to cross over with. The intention behind crossovers is so that you're not just limited to seeing your most closest neighbors prior to getting into playoff situations. That was the kind of explanation that was given to me about it. I wasn't that, so what would have happened would have been 3 years ago that those crossovers would have been identified. And then they were locked into it for the next 2 seasons. I'm sitting down with our coaches. I've already had a conversation about our football crossovers, and put those requests forward, to who does the football scheduling. Same thing will happen with basketball as soon as those divisions are taken out a little bit. And I'll be sitting with our coaches to say, okay, let's look at a feasible crossovers. What makes the most sense? We have had conversations within the NBC athletic directors about looking at how can we change our schedule to be more Mountain Valley Conference heavy for exactly those reasons, because logistically, it makes so much more sense to be playing as close to home as we can, as often as we can, but still provide some outside a little bit as well, but not to the extreme that we had it this year.
So we've gotten some really good feedback too, from people who've reached out to us about you, and you've done a really great job this season in general.
Thank
Just
you.
wanted to make sure they knew that we all heard and we're all in this. So
Thanks.
you're welcome.
Good job. So do we need to talk about budget now? One thing I am not planning to do, I just gave you, the kind of an overview. I wanted to include some long-term goals that I have for our athletics programs. So I'm not gonna read through bullet to bullet on that. Please read through it on your own, but it's really just driving force of trying to make some changes within our program and some little steps at a time. And everything that I'm asking coming forward with our budget next year are tied directly to our goals. Our goals are directly tied to our strategic plan. And as far as athletics and activities go, the biggest part of that is our community engagement and looping people in, because that's one thing that has been identified that is an area that we can work on. And has been a little bit of a goal for mine, a little bit of focus this year. And people have given some good feedback that it has been pretty good, but I've got more. That's not my last trick up my sleeve. I've got lots for us to continue to add on. So looking at, I'm going to skip through all the way down to where it has the program updates. And I know Mrs. Thompson, when she had talked about her budget, she included this a little bit as well, but I wanted to give you a little bit finer detail about it. And the approximate increase is $10,800. I also realized now that I'm looking at this, I forgot one bullet point. So if you want to draw one in, you can. But these 3 things that are listed here, game time, snap mobile, and huddle, are all increased technology to be able to help provide both our families and our communities better experiences with what's going on here at Virgo, both at the middle school and the high school. So these have kind of been added just into the high school budget, but would be able to utilize them at the middle school as well. So game time radio, what that is, if you were at any of the basketball playoff games or any event that we've had this year, we made the shift to utilizing that. We implemented it to cover the district for copyright infringement violations. You can't just pull up a list on Spotify and push play. That is a definite. Brian's like, yeah, no. So that was one thing that I was asked when I started to really address, as well as what game time does is it sorts through appropriate music, both for content and language.
Oh,
So
we already have it.
we have it. We've been utilizing it all
Okay.
year. So I ended up
shifting some money for this year from other budget lines, which I talk about down here in additional cost changes, to be able to find money to be able to implement it this year, to kind of do it as a trial run, to say, is this something that makes sense for us? And it
So
absolutely
what does it do besides, filter the music?
So what I can do is I can create, what I do is I send team captains or whoever, the whole team if they want to, I send them a link, they go make their own playlists. And then it means that I or anybody else doesn't have to go through and listen song by song or read lyric line by lyric line, because that's how it started during preseason last year in the fall. Kids would submit to me and they're like, no, it's the clean version. I'm like, well, I get that they're not seeing some of the words that we probably shouldn't be blasting up Wall Street. But the content that's there is still implied, and that's not how we want to represent ourselves. So it does takes that step away. What it also does is puts PSAs out. So if you put it in radio mode, and this is some steps away from the playlist that the kids created during halftime, between games, whatever you want to put in radio mode, it'll put PSAs out. So when you were at the tournament, if you went to the ACC this week, you would hear some broadcasted reminders about sportsmanship, reminders about the concession stand availability. It has ability to incorporate that as well. It also, as well as the next two things I'm going to talk about, they have the ability to do sponsorship. So if there are local businesses that would like to sponsor, they can do that. It can end up becoming a revenue source for us as well. So it could cover its own cost and then more also. Did that help answer that question?
Yeah, you did. So it's only the music stuff. It doesn't do anything else.
It's just music.
Okay, see, I'm not tech savvy and I'm not gonna learn certain.
Yeah, yeah.
My daughter gives me my limitations.
And sound effects. I had fun during soccer games with sound effects with goals and the big horn go out. Wah, wah. It was really fun. Or a cougar growl, that got to happen a couple of times too. And then the next one is Snap Mobile. That is for improved communication. What it is it's actually two different things combined with one program. It's a website platform with up-to-date everything, but most excitingly, it's also an app that people can download. They can get notifications for game changes, practice changes, anything that's happening can be communicated straight to whoever wants to sign up for such notifications can get them. I can put blasts out after games, reporting scores. Lots of schools within the Mountain Valley Conference use it. These actually, all three of these are ones that having conversation in the NBC athletic directors meetings. I was like, oh, you guys do that. Oh, that's why her website looks like all up to the minute instantly. Wow, that's how you do it. It's because they can upload it in one spot and it blasts out to multiple places. And that just lines straight back up with getting our community in the know of all of the things that are happening. And then the last one is Huddle. It's a live stream program that can do activities both inside and outside. They have cameras that are mounted, typically would be in the gym and out at the football field to show any games that are happening there, whether it be night field hockey games, soccer games, or football. And also would have an iPad that can go remotely to other events as well. So that could go to baseball, softball, cross country, wherever you want to take that iPad can go to. And it is at no cost to the viewers. So unlike NFHS, where you have to purchase a subscription just to watch the games, with Huddle, you do not need to purchase anything. They just click on the link and it takes them to the game. Brian and I have had a lot of conversations with this company, and I'm pretty good about some things that they have put in place to really make sure all bases are covered. It provides as well. We have used Huddle in the past just for our football team. They have purchased this as a program to do scouting and statistics and game video breakdown. Part of this purchase would also mean that I could take it out of that other line from the budget. So that was like a $1,200 cut right there that had just been used for football, which would now be linked in through this. That bullet point that I didn't have on here, and I can't believe I forgot it because I use it almost every day, is arbiter pay. Arbiter pay is, so what arbiter is the program that assigns our officials for all sporting events, middle school and high school. What arbiter pay does is now allows us to be able to, we essentially, and we've been using it this year, have been able to create basically a debit account that we load. And then after events happen, I verify the cost. I verify that the person showed up, did their job, and then I hit pay.
No more checks?
So no more, there's one check that goes to arbiter pay, and then everything gets dispersed. And we don't do one big check. I should rephrase that. It's like, I said, okay,
Increments. I
here's
know.
like what I'm anticipating us needing for the next X number of weeks. Let's deposit that instead of, I'm not gonna dump it all in there. No. And it's been a real time saver, I think, both for me as well as our payroll office. Just, it's so smooth. It's so smooth for the most part. Once we figured out a few little digital hiccups, that was user error, I think. Do I have any questions to those things?
Just want to point out that that also does their W-2s and all those pieces. Like it takes everything out of payroll, but arbiter pay for all of our referees and umpires.
Oh.
Who, on levels, who owns the content? And I assume the content, so are we paying a fee to have it, or are they providing it and then they get the content, they have ownership of the video feed? And
Brian, can I defer to you on that one, because I think that's part of the conversation.
I'm off the top of my head, I believe the content is still ours. I'd have to pull the terms of service to make sure, but there's still a few things we're working out with them in terms of data privacy agreements and stuff.
but we pay for it, right?
We would, yes.
And who has access to it? I mean, who could watch it? Anybody?
If they have the link, they would be able to. So that would be, just like what we do for any student who, if we're doing student of the month or any other,
And all sports would be on that?
it would be part of their release that they would sign or not.
So all our sports would be on that, or just some of them, or?
All sports is actually.
Yeah, would all sports be available?
Yeah, I mean, that would be the hope, is that we could get as many of our activities out so people could see.
Well, I mean, because we have a handful of these students that go on to college, and sometimes there's college scouts looking, so that would be
Yes.
something that could be provided to them.
Yep, and the other thing that I know that, we've kind of learned about it is that they can create some highlight clips. They can create and they can pull, and just look at what did so-and-so do, and they would pull out highlight reels for them to be able to send.
You know, questions that they like students to send a highlight sometimes, so that's.
Yeah, that's exactly what we'd be able to provide for them. And like I said, for those first three, all three have the opportunity for us to use sponsorship within the community or even beyond. It can be local sponsorship or national. They help us with that process as well, if we would like them to help us. But as a way that we could have revenue as well. So the hope would be to be able to implement them. And then if we can do that step with sponsorship, that it would end up paying for itself, if not more. Okay. Oh, Carl.
Who's put all the data into that, coaches, or,
The data?
yeah, like say number of tackles, speed of runs on the ski slope, takedowns, wrestling, how does that work?
How many sacks?
Cause I've looked on it before, and it seemed like my son was even on it, and I didn't even know, but.
Yeah, so that was a question that we had asked about, because I know it kind of had been used a few years ago when your son was in school, and they changed that program a lot. I think technology has come a
But I mean, does the coach have to keep, who has to keep all the stats, or
They don't need to.
they keep it off the film? That's what I thought.
They will report, do all the stats, do
Because
turnovers.
right now,
do-
they, most of them keep that themselves, they have somebody on the side who's keeping track of the stats. and-
Yes, all of that is done, so it saves our
Yeah.
coaches time as well.
I just wondered how they did it, from the film, or,
AI does it through film.
yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, there's artificial intelligence that'll read the film and build the stats.
So do we have to start numbering our wrestlers? Just kidding, so I can identify, I'm being facetious, sorry.
okay. I'm ready to move on, all right, just some additional cost changes. I'm anticipating some increase in transportation costs, but hopefully maybe not as much as we have had, just trying to keep it closer to home. I went ahead and removed some budget items that have not been used in several years. So that will be a reduction. Also removed $3,300 in live streamlines that would be covered under the huddle program. And then I know that there will be some shifts in our coaching staff, which should fluctuate our stipends a little bit too, based on experience. So those are some of the ones that I just kind of see on the radar a little bit. And then the last page, I just put on there student involvement for our middle school and our high school sports for fall and winter athletics. I will make sure that to note that the fall middle school number, I think, is a little skewed because so many kids participate in our rec football program here for the town. It is 27%, but I can tell you that there's a lot of kids that play football.
Yeah.
So, take that with a grain of salt a little bit as well. So, and I just thought those might be fun numbers to look at.
Go ahead, Bruce.
A quick question to back you up for a second. On the program updates, you talked about approximately 10.8 to increases, and you said in the bottom part bullet, that it's an initial cost. So is this 10.8 going to stay every year? And then when you're talking this is what it's costing us to implement these 3 different programs?
It's the 4 different programs because I left out that.
I know that, okay, I wasn't sure.
So really looking at it, it would be more like 75 based on what I have deducted already to add in. So, and then it would just say,
So that would be, it's not an initial cost, it's a cost every year.
right,
Okay.
right,
Unless we can get sponsorship. Unless we can get sponsorship.
right, unless we can get a sponsorship.
We don't really, you don't get on the business platform very much. I know we don't, rarely. Golf is very minuscule what we get. I get really different sponsors. So,
I know, I think that there are lots of people that want to help and this is the thing, they just need to ask.
they like to. And I think, if we're able to do the, which one's the huddle? Which one was the one we could watch? Yes. Because I know a lot of people do watch them. I don't, games.
Wrestling, a lot of the parents volunteer and do Facebook Live, the
Yeah.
wrestling.
Yeah, I think a lot too, and I know a lot of schools that come to us ask like, what's your live stream like?
We don't have one.
So,
Well, Liz Hutchinson was good for basketball.
Aberdeen is good for wrestling.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I have some things to after. Are you gonna be here until the end?
yeah, I'll be here.
All right, thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
Boom, Heidi, you're up.
Evening. All right, so I'll just start with the mission statement, which is the same that it was last year for special education services. We're working to prepare children from birth to 22 if they qualify to contribute to their communities in meaningful and positive ways by providing specialized instruction, allowing for individual differences in learning styles and developing independence. The special education budget reflects both materials and staff to support all of the students across the district with IEPs. And this is established through a referral process and meetings. This budget includes funds for curriculum, extended school year services for which some of our students do qualify, occupational, physical, and speech therapy. We provide psychological services, social work services. This also includes supplies, professional development, training for staff, both special education and general education in behavioral and restraint training, the salary and benefits of staff. So those are some of the items. The uncontrollable things, which really do result in the big jump in the special education budget, are things such as salaries and benefits that are being negotiated, the increased cost of out-of-district placements, special purpose private schools, the resulting main care seed that is required when special purpose private schools or our district bills main care. I can explain that further when we go along if people have questions. And we have had, gosh, in the this year and last year, we've had 3 different students, and there is another on the horizon, move in from other districts that are already in these high cost out of district placements. So IEP teams have already made this decision. The students are already established in the school programs, and we inherit that. We are required to continue with that. I certainly do talk with IEP teams. I go to visit students at their programs. I work hard to try to think about when and if we can bring them back to their local district. And that's not just for cost purposes. It's also because most of our programs are not close by. You know, there is a transportation cost, there are additional expenses related to that. We do have the Western Foothills Regional Program, which we do utilize, and that is closer, and I try to use that whenever possible. But a lot of these students are actually not placed there when they come to us. For instance, we inherited a student this year who is placed in a program in Monmouth. So that's quite a distance away, and then we are automatically responsible for that placement. So enrollment this year, right now, we've got 139 students within the district that have qualified for IEPs. That's pretty standard. That's pretty much around where our number stays. It does often fluctuate with move-ins and move-outs, but we're pretty close to the 140 range most of the time. We do have 10 students in out-of-district placements right now. We have had 18 referrals so far this year. I know there are 2 more coming in. This will be the highest amount of referrals that we've had since I've been here over the last 7 years. So 6 of those are speech referrals, and by referral, that is when a team, sometimes it's the parent. A parent can make a referral to special education independently. Sometimes it's the classroom teacher. Generally, it's a combo. And it means that they're suspecting that this child has a disability, that they are struggling to make progress in the general ed curriculum due to a disability. When we get a referral, we're required to meet and go through testing and complete lots of different steps to determine if the student does in fact have a disability and qualify. 11 of our current referrals are in progress. 7 have qualified. Some really positive news is we have had 5 students so far this year graduate out of special education services, which is always our goal, and into the regular education setting full time. So that's wonderful progress. Moving on to staffing, the staffing is staying very standard. What we've had for the last few years, we have 8 special education teachers across the 3 buildings, and we have 25 ed techs across the 3 buildings. It is important to note that in addition to related service providers, we do have some contracted providers. And again, those levels remain the same for the upcoming budget. Out of district placements, so for the 25-26 school year, I was advised to increase the daily rate by a maximum of 6%. We don't have those official daily rates at this point for special purpose private schools. Those rates are set by the Department of Education. And I'll explain, sometimes they don't get those rates set until October of the next school year. So it is important and safe to budget up than to end up not having the funding that we need. That is not for the Western Foothills Regional Program. I do know their daily rate that went up $10 a day for next year. But it's the special purpose private schools, your Margaret Murphy's, the collaborative school in New Gloucester, their rates are set by the DOE. And this year we've experienced getting some money back from a special purpose private school because the department actually lowered their rate. And then on the opposite end, we had to pay more to another one because the department had a higher rate for them than what they had had. So just to let you know that when you see Section B and the increase here for the special education budget, more than half of that, 3/4 of that is solely just items 1 and 2. So your out of district placements and the main care seat that results from that. The other areas are course reimbursement, which is required by contract. I've had an increase in special education staff that are looking to take courses next year. Our physical therapy contract is going up, and that's based on IEP team decisions around physical therapy needs for students in our district. A field trip line for Dirigo Middle School for the life skills programming, they have requested, and they requested this last year, but did not request it in time for the budget, so I didn't have a line there, so I borrowed and begged from other places to try to get them at least to be able to go once. This line is a request that they've made to go, I believe it was 6 times in the school year, to bring students swimming and then have the opportunity for them to practice just sort of all of the social aspects involved in that. And you know, then going to lunch, which they do raise some money for the lunch portion of things. But then being able to kind of practice what it's like to order in a restaurant, et cetera. And then the last line is Brian's fault.
Everybody.
And really, that's just the sort of the standard need to kind of increase those lines for paper across the district, the special ed department's share of that, software maintenance, and the telephone system.
And the dreaded paper. So we're gonna have a fundraiser for paper.
On a positive note, as a result of COVID, we, special education, did invest in Blue Ink and Zoom. So we actually are able to do meetings online still, and we have a lot of families that have opted for us to send them our paperwork online, which is a huge savings because some of our IEPs can be, you know, 8 to 10 pages long, along with a written notice that could be 3 to 4 pages long. So we're not having to mail as much out, and we're able to send it electronically, which has been a positive for the special education department. So questions, I didn't read out loud the big giant number, but you all see it there in bold on your paper.
I see it.
I thought there was a typo, no?
I wish,
Right.
yeah.
One question, when you talk about just sending things electronically, I'm asking Brian as well as you, I'm presuming it's encrypted?
Yes.
Yes, Blue Ink, Blue Ink runs the same as DocuSign, so everything's encrypted from one end to another. And
Okay, thank you.
Brian hooked me up with that program, so I trust it. But yeah. Any other questions?
Go ahead.
So in front of that, it's gonna be on your uncontrollables, your out of district and your main care seat, mostly like, probably like 90. Not over 90% of that increase.
Yeah, so I did some quick math, and if I were to deduct those things out, my overall budget, if I took out district placement increase costs and main care seat, my overall budget would be going up $28,000.
Yeah.
Holy mother, very good. What does main care seed mean?
So main care seed is when a student receives a service that a district or a special purpose private school can bill main care for, the federal government pays 62% of that. And the state, and then the state portion is 38%. So the state does pay that seed, but then they charge it out to us. So there is a quarterly report that gets sent that I review every quarter to make sure that that report includes our students and that those service times make sense for those programs. But yes, so we pay our out-of-district placement cost, our daily rate, and then on top of that, we pay into main care seed at that 38% for anything that's been billed for, so things that get billed are speech therapy services, occupational therapy, physical therapy,
So we're required to pay for that.
the 38%.
Why are we required, don't usually if we're in the public? I thought.
It
they-
doesn't matter.
So
even-
they don't pay anything then? Main
Care's
care,
not paying anything right now.
I know, they're not
So it
giving
sounds,
their
it sounds
money.
like they're actually paying the other part of the 38%. We're paying 38% of what's billable. Which
Yeah.
we're allowing.
Yeah,
Who's
and the
paying rest?
62% is paid for by the feds. This has been a system for a long time, and just so you know, it is public and private. So we, when this district bills, which we bill very minimally for
I
main
know,
care
'cause we don't-
services. Yeah, just, so we bill minimally, but we still have to pay that 38% on the main care seed for services that we provide here in this district.
It's interesting since most of that's really medical, that.
That they
Make's
would
not
be
foot
paid
bill.
that.
Yeah, I'll be honest, when
Bigger
I,
than you, right?
when I learned about this, I was floored. I was like, what do you mean we pay for them to be there every day and then we pay some more? But that's
great.
not within my control.
No, clearly, yeah.
One question, I do know last year it went up because, we pay whether the student comes or not. Which was a big increase, because I remember seeing around the state, that was a big chunk of change. for some
Thankfully,
districts.
our district, with the help of Mary, we were always budgeting for the student to attend every
Okay,
day. So
alright.
our district wasn't one of those districts that took a big hit because we didn't budget enough for when that change happened.
So why does the Department of Education have control over what a private school charges us? Why can they increase that? What is their reasoning behind that? If they're not paying for the main care, the feds are, so what is their,
I
they're
think,
not,
I don't have the answer for that.
I'm just curious.
You know, they
I
are
never
setting
knew
the
that.
rate. I don't know why they've taken over setting those rates for the special purpose private schools.
It's just an interesting fact. You learn something.
So what I will say is that big number in bold that you're seeing, obviously, if I'm made aware sooner than I'm expecting, unfortunately, that the rates will be set, and it'll be below that 6% daily increase, I would adjust
Yeah,
that
but-
budget immediately.
But we,
So I'm gonna just say on that note, though, I got an email today that we have another student coming.
holy
that just
mother of God.
is gonna close on a house in one of our 4 towns and is already in an out-of-district placement. So I probably won't let her reduce that even if we find out it goes down.
Yeah. You know, on the insurance side of things, if we're asking why they can dictate the rate, they dictate rates for every provider.
Yeah.
So I have in my practice, we have a reasonable and customary charge, which would be cash rate essentially. And then you have the contractually adjusted charge, which is based on CMS, Medicare dollar amount. So it's kind of common across all things now. I'm not saying that's every detail of what they're doing. But chances are good, they're probably not privately owned, they probably are a nonprofit. And they probably are just as bound by CMS rates. That Medicare, I'll tell you, Medicare will break any business. They'll absolutely break it. So it's pretty common practice if that's the case, especially when there's a government payer, you know, in most cases.
Yeah.
So how many out of district do we have currently?
So we currently have 4 at Margaret Murphy. We have 4 at the Western Foothills Regional Program. We have 1 at Pineview in Monmouth. That's the one I referenced earlier. That was a move-in this year. We have 1 at the Collaborative School. That was also not a placement I generated. That was a move-in to our district. And then we have another that I'm aware of that is factored in here that is not about the email. That I know will become ours as of July 1st, that is placed at Margaret Murphy in Randolph. Our other students, that is also not a placement I created, it's a move-in. Our students that I've been a part of placing, are all in the Auburn, Lewiston, Margaret Murphy
How do
places.
they get to Randolph?
How
We have to pay for it.
We have to drive them there?
Oh, yes.
we are legally responsible
Doesn't
for,
that create like an absurdly unacceptable burden on taxpayers?
Yes.
I mean, it's because I think people will discover, if they haven't already, this is a great school district, it's a great place to live, it's pretty quiet, great place to be, right? So when you've got great teachers and great organization, they're gonna move here, and it's not the people with money that are moving here.
No, it's not.
And I'm not down on people that don't have money, that's how I came up, I get it. But there's gotta be a point where we can push back and say, not sustainable, can't we say no to, to a child who needs to go to Randolph? So what happens to the one that needs to go to Fort Kent? You're driving to Fort Kent every day?
so I have said no before. I've said that that's not, a 2-hour commute is not a reasonable commute. So
Right.
Randolph is about an hour and 5 minutes. Lewiston is about an hour. So those are kind of within that reasonable commute. I never think it's a great idea to have any student sitting.
Vehicles are we gonna need though, because we've got those already going to Lewiston,
There's staff.
and then we've got one going to Monmouth, so that means we need another vehicle available, another driver and another expense.
So the challenge is most of these students that are in those programs have needs well beyond what we're offering here in our district. And so when an IEP team makes that decision, I, as a director, cannot change that. I can't just
No, we know.
on my own change it. So what we try to do is have those I have worked hard to get, I don't know if you guys recall, but we had a student come back from Margaret Murphy. We've had 2 come back from Margaret Murphy, and I will share with you that when I was with the prior district, I didn't ever see that. So I was really pushing to get these kids back. I'm doing the same with our student that's in Monmouth. But it is a whole team decision. It's not a me decision, but when it makes sense and a student can be successful in our district, I agree. I think we're a great district and I want them here, not travel.
I think that you're unfortunately put in a lot of positions where you just don't have anything to say about it, or you can say it, you can't do anything. I have to wonder, I'm saying this out loud, there's gonna be a showdown with budget here eventually.
Very quickly.
And it's gonna be multifaceted showdown. And it depends on what the federal government decides to do, who knows, that mess. So I don't know how we change it, but it seems like we absolutely have no control over our budget when it comes to these kinds of placements. And that's not reasonable.
No.
It's not acceptable. It's not reasonable.
So what happens, this is also a wonder, what happens when all of these budget wants and needs come forward, we push them to the voters and the voters are like, we've had enough?
Right.
What happens? What do we cut? Because we can't cut this, right?
No, you can't, it's mandatory, so you have to cut which is,
So
you
all
look
the
at
others
the
are gonna
things
suffer.
that,
They all suffer at and we gotta be clear. People don't not love these children and want these children to have what they need, right? But there's the point where because I really do think we're headed for a budget showdown.
Yeah.
And what's gonna end up happening is they're gonna keep saying no. And then if we do have to get to the point where we're cutting sports programs and teachers, where we have all these students are suffering because of the demands and the entitlement of one. And it just defies logic. So how do we address this? Who do we address it? Is it a legislature thing? Is it a DOE thing? It seems bigger than that.
Well, I would say the IDEA law that's at a federal level really dictates most of this. So if we're not following IEPs, if we're not making sure students are where they need to be based on their level of need, then we end up in a situation where it costs us a lot of money because now we have a parent taking us to due process through the state. And that's thousands and thousands of dollars and hours of time.
And we don't really know what's going on with the Department of Education at this point either. We're going forward.
I mean,
That's what I know.
the beginning of the year, wasn't it, we agreed on a letter, because they don't even fund currently.
That letter was sent.
The letter about what they fund for special education.
They're not
The
providing.
feds, not enough, because these are mandated things Because we know with the other local, the state one, they mandate and then say.
Good luck.
So we're not gonna you do an excellent job.
Thank you, guys.
And you do everything for the kids. Oh, go ahead, Bruce.
So clarify for me, these three different places we're talking about, Randolph, Monmouth, and the one we deal with is Auburn. So Auburn facility cannot do what these other two facilities do?
So the student in Monmouth, that came from 10, so that student's already there, and that's the student I'm working with the IEP team to see if we can transition back into our elementary school. That's more of a day treatment style program. It's not the same as the Margaret Murphy's. The program in Randolph I haven't been to yet. That student isn't ours yet, so I have to go and observe that. But what I can tell you is that I just want to be careful about not disclosing too much personal information. That there will be a transition and a change for that student as they enter high school anyway, I guess is what I can say. So to require a transition immediately when they start with us would be a lot on a student that's been in a program for 4 years. And been successful in the program. And again, it isn't just my decision. I can come to the table and recommend we look at that and consider that. And I do every time I go to a meeting for an out of district placement. But I alone can't demand that change.
So there's no way to stipulate that if someone moves into our district, that the only out of district placement we offer is whatever.
No.
Correct, I cannot do
They
that.
could be rather.
Based on the capability of the program, right?
Huh.
Like each program isn't equal capability wise.
Correct.
Yes.
And again, it becomes an IEP team decision. So I'm required to look at all options. And quite frankly, most of these programs have waiting lists. So I end up having to try to get these kids on waiting lists at multiple programs and just hope, that we can get them into wherever. I don't take it lightly to send a student out of district. And again, the majority of these students were actually already there prior, or they're from another district. But when we get to that point, it's a pretty serious situation, and we're pretty aware that the student is not accessing their education in our school building.
Right.
And oftentimes causing degrees of disruption for others learning as well.
I know it's not an easy situation. It just seems so absurd that we're being dictated from the IEPs the way you're gonna send them and you have no control over it. And it seems,
I think we have a voice, we sit and we talk about what's available, what's around, but when we get to that point of needing that level of placement, we are pretty limited based on where we're located to what we can access. I personally wouldn't have necessarily sent a student to the collaborative. That's in New Gloucester. That's a stretch. But when you have a student towards the end of their educational career and they've been placed there by another district and been there for years and years, it's very difficult to get an IEP team to agree that it's in the student's best interest to move that placement.
Don,
Yes, all these students that we have, they're all living in that district. I heard that.
Correct. That's where the legal requirement comes in for us if they reside in our 4 towns.
And does it seem like, because we might have a better system than other schools, that we are ending up with some extra children?
I don't think so necessarily. I do think people come and go across the river sometimes. I find like we'll have students come from 10 and then they go back to 10 and then they're back here. And so there is a little bit of that with 10, but otherwise I haven't seen in terms of our overall numbers. It's just this year, there have been, the ones that are on our radar, we got an email about, or the one that I know is ours on July 1st, and then the one we got in the middle of the year that's in Monmouth. Those are things that I couldn't have predicted, families moving here. Yeah.
all right,
Any other questions?
thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, next,
Kenny, I think Kenny might do his report at the same time, he said.
oh, go for it, so you can go.
Evening, everybody. I'll start out with a mission and then kind of go into the overview of the 3 programs we have. The mission of RSU56 Buildings, Grounds and Transportation Department is to maintain safe, clean buildings, athletic fields, and to provide safe transportation, reliable transportation for our students. The custodians, we have 5 buildings that we maintain and clean. We have 12 bus runs a day in the 4 towns that we have. We run 4 vans daily to the Western Foothills region in Rumford. We use the vans a lot if the students are transitioning back and forth. So the vans that we have are quite busy. We have 1 bus that does go to Margaret Murphy, and just to kind of add to what Heidi said, when we go to Margaret Murphy with that bus, we have 4 different stops down there for different programs throughout.
Is there?
Yeah, Lewiston and Auburn. We have 2 mechanics. We have a fleet of 21 buses, 5 passenger vans, 1 food van, 2 plow trucks. We have 3 tractors that we use for mowing and snow removal. The district maintains 23 acres of athletic fields. And last year we traveled 190,000 district-wide miles. Moving on to the transportation budget, we've estimated a 12% increase in the vehicle insurance. That's through main school management. We have locked into diesel fuel. The lock-in price starting in July will be $289.9. The price that we had this year was $311, so it did drop down in fuel. I saw it drop about, I don't know why, it's really a game that they play, but in December, I saw it drop for 3 or 4 days. I don't know if anybody remembers that. So I started making some calls, so we locked in immediately on diesel fuel. Let's see. I did add in, we have 3 vans. One of them's got over 300,000, 2 of them got over 200,000. So I did put in for, see if we could find us a used van for 20,000. We did get approval from the state on a new school bus this year, so hopefully we can pursue that.
You want to add another 0 to
You're,
2,000?
yeah, because it looked like you put
You want
20,
2,000.
there's 1 0 missing. So you
Oh,
got
that was my
just
typo.
2,000.
What I have a school bus.
Yeah,
20,000?
20,000, yeah.
20.
Did I say 2,000?
Well, that's what you got.
No,
that's
if
20
you're
to
missing
come,
a 0, 0.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, and then we went over the bus. So, you know, like Heidi said, just to add to that a little bit, the out-of-state placements really do put a strain on, you know, the transportation department. We try to keep up with it, and look down the road is what we get coming, but it's getting to be more and more difficult with people. And I did put in for the add-on in the transportation department. We really need to start updating our communication on our buses. We still have the radios that we've had forever. There's a lot of spots that we can't cover, and there's a lot of new technology and things out. I've asked Brian to give me a hand a little bit on understanding which is the best way to go. The 10,000 are probably, it's a rough estimate. It would probably get us going in the right direction for our communication. What I kind of thought is we could put whatever we decide on, put 1 in each town, so they can relay, so we can at least talk to people, talk to the buses. The maintenance budget, which would be your buildings, again, it's the insurance has gone up 12% on estimate on liability, and that was through school, main school management also. We did lock in on heating oil. We locked in at $277.9. This year's price was $2.96.9, so there's a savings there. We did last year we went up to bid on propane, and I did that again this year. We're at a new bus garage is propane, and we locked in at $1.74.9. I did put in the budget. We had talked about in the committee that the hot water tank up to the middle school, so we could shut the boiler down fall and spring. And that was $7,900. That would be electric. There is some rebates through efficiency main. So I'm not quite sure how much, because they kind of vary it back and forth, but if we end up doing that, I'll be checking on that. here at the Darrell High School, our fire alarm system needs to be updated. There's some panels in there that we can't get pieces and parts for anymore, so we really need to do a complete update here in the school. The kitchen booster, that's like a separate hot water tank that boosts up your domestic hot water for your dish machine to 160. That's getting, so it's getting rusted and kind of bad to replace parts. Some parts we can't get. The switches are getting bad, so we need to replace that. Let's see, and then the northern ramp down here, it's cement and we keep patching every year and it really needs to come out. What I thought was we could take it out ourselves, the crew we have, and put in like a pressure treated ramp. So it's ADA compliant. We also talked about doing something out here on the very front doors to make that ADA compliant.
Cause that is the door that
Yeah,
is,
so then we'd have
to get in.
two ways.
Yeah, okay.
So some of the add-ons, we've got a lot of doors, that really need to be either refurbished or replaced. So I just, put them in as an add-on. The Darrell Elementary School, like door 4, that's a, kind of refurbish it, it's one of the doors that go out onto the, playground, so it really gets used a lot. We're having trouble with it. Securing it so that the alarm works. That one really needs some work to it. The boys' locker room, that's refurbished, girls. Nash Street entrance, that is a new price for that one. And also when the inspector comes in for the kitchen, he kind of writes it's up every year for the kitchen door out here too. So I know we can't do all these probably this year, but I thought we ought to at least know and be looking at what, some of the ones that we need to replace. I guess if I had to pick one, out of the bunch is really that kitchen door. That's all I have.
Okay, any questions for Kenny? Go ahead, Carl.
So like Rumford or RSU10 and Mudfield, do they send kids to, they must send kids to Margaret Murphy? Have we ever tried to carpool?
So actually, two of the students, that we are transporting, I think one's in Greg Gloucester, Heidi, and
Yeah,
there's another one.
and the one in Monmouth.
Yeah,
so
the one in
we
Monmouth,
are-
we're actually sharing with them. A lot of the homeless students that we transport, we share with other districts also.
Probably the van's full anyway, yeah.
Well, yeah, and a lot of this, it says 101, you can only have one student in.
I assume that you might even have more than one ed tech on one van too, right?
We have an ed tech that goes to Margaret Murphy. The other ones we haven't had to do. So we've been lucky there that the only, aid we had is that one that goes down there.
But you have looked into the carpool thing.
Yeah, we have, yeah. Oh, and the most important part is we moved into our new bus garage.
Oh.
That's the best part. So, the boys moved in Christmas vacation, got pretty much everything moved. We've got just a few things left down at the town garage, but not many. So that's worked out really well. And in my billing report, I'll kind of go into the, some of the savings and things we're seeing already, but that's just, it's amazing to have something like that and, thank everybody for their support to get it and the taxpayers and everything. It's really, we made it good.
Okay, Bruce?
So we did get approved for another bus this
Yeah.
year, so we've got one we'll retire,
The one that we were gonna retire, we lost the motor in about a month and a half ago.
so it's retired. Is
So it
It
retired itself.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
the one that's driven in next to the
That's the one.
garage?
Yeah, we lost the motor in it and it's around 20,000 to put a new shop lock in it, so it's, yeah.
Is that the one that was on the side?
And actually, we've taken some pieces off, but we had to put, driver, opened the hood one day when the wind was blowing, they got caught, and so that hood fit, so we were kind of picking it, piece by piece already on it, so.
So can we strip it and get rid of it?
We'll take what we need off it and then put it out to bid. We've got two down at the bus garage, the old bus garage has got to go out to bid too, so we get, a few things, and if we get a van, we'll put one out. So we'll have a few things in the spring that we'll have to put out to bid.
Have you been looking for vans? Have you found anything?
I haven't.
New or new used?
Well, I'm hoping to pick up some new, like a good used one, either through the state or, a vendor, but, everybody's grabbing them, so they are a little bit hard to find, but, we might be able to get something.
Get the connections to the state. We've had good luck there so far.
Yeah, sometimes we've made out, I got a couple of friends of mine that go to the auctions down like Massachusetts and sometimes you get these, like a whole fleet of rental vehicles and that stuff will come in, so you can buy them at a reasonable rate and in pretty good shape, so. We've got 2 or 3 that was like that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, all done, bunch of questions, now you can do a report, you said just.
Oh, do you wanna just do it now?
I can, yeah.
It's up to you.
Oh, he's gotta get the other one.
I thought he was gonna, I thought that's what he told me earlier.
So I kind of covered a lot of it in my budget. But kind of going back to the bus garage, we've got the final payment on the garage, and we've been kind of holding back. We had trouble, we've got an underground line up there that the fiber optics is supposed to go in, but it's full of water and froze. So we're I want to get that addressed, and they said, well, we'll pump it out in the spring. Well, that's not good enough for me. I want to know why the water got in it, so
Yeah.
we still got that little problem to take care of. I did, Bruce had asked at the last BDT meeting. Right now, I've kind of tracked it for the last 2 months, and, as everybody knows, it's been pretty cold and windy, but we were using about 5 gallons a day of propane to heat. When the cold weather come, it went up to about 8 or 9. So, that's pretty efficient, opening them doors and things like that. The water, it's a minimum of $84 a quarter. So we're gonna, our water will be about $336 a year. The electricity piece, I haven't had a chance to track it because the bills were messed up and the meters and that. kind of
They got
stuff.
the bills.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So,
Bob. No.
when they get the addresses and everything, straightened out, then I'll have a figure on that too, but. Last year, last summer, we started in on, all the upgrades here at the high school, for the heat and the air conditioning. The heat has worked out very well. We've been saving, it's gotta be saving quite a bit of money. So basically, we got a night setback, that we can do in all of the classrooms and buildings, gym. It's like, if we know we have something going on just in the gym on a Saturday, we just, punch it in on the computer and it will heat just that gym. So normally it will go back to about 61, 62, when it's not occupied. This school, along with the other 2 now, everything is off from the carbon dioxide. So your thermostats, not only do they control the heat, but they also, if it senses that the carbon dioxide is high, like see in the gym, every once in a while you get that breath of fresh air,
Yeah.
that sensing that it's getting high, so it's gonna, so all the classrooms are like that now. So then we can vary, say if a teacher wants it at 68, we can run it at 68. If they want it a little warmer, we can program that too. So the heat part has worked out. It was kind of late when they got the AC finished up, so we'll have to deal with that this spring, but. At the middle school, probably everybody saw the catch basin that we replaced, and then we were waiting, and I didn't know if we were gonna get it, patched up for fall, but there's actually, we had snow on the ground. Excuse me, when they paved it, but what was happening up there, and we didn't know this, we went to replace the catch basin. But all the drainage system up there, including the roof, goes down by the snowmobile trail and drops down over that hill. Well, a pipe was broke about 20 feet back in the ground. So the water was going into the catch basin, didn't have no place to go, so that's why it kept washing them out. But we finally found that, we got that fixed. Darrow Elementary School, the PFAS system is about a year old. That's working very well. I did put, there's 14,000 in the budget, in case we have to rechange them filtering units out, and we will at some point in time, but I just don't know when. So they've been good for a year. We're monitoring it, every month and everything. So that's working out well. I don't know if anybody saw the flashing lights down by the road. The state, all of a sudden, in the middle of summer, turned it over to the schools. So
What over?
down by the, you know, where on 108 where the flashing lights are.
Yeah,
Okay, well, so the state always took care of that. But then they decided that it was contracted, and then they did away with the contract. So we had to find somebody to do that, and it has to be programmed, they have to have software, and what we typically do is, when you people okay the calendar for the school year, we send that to them, to the company. And then we tell them, you know, when we want them on in the morning, when we, you know,
Yeah.
vice versa, and you get Wednesday's late start, you have to program too. So it was like, I think like Christmas before we finally got somebody to work on them and get that fixed. So that was, you know, we were getting calls and everybody said, well, how come the lights isn't working? And, but we finally did get it fixed, and we got a company now that'll fix it for us. The grounds, we've got all the fertilizers all ready for spring. So we're all kind of ready to go. The guys are actually kind of digging through some of the equipment and getting stuff done, which is a little bit slow, getting ready for spring. During vacation, we did, Gina was able to buy some alarm freezers and coolers. We had some, but if the power went out, then our alarms didn't work. So these are all remote. Brian's working with her to get them all, so it's all wireless. So we've got them installed during vacation. The bleachers inside and out will be inspected, especially the ones on the outside before spring sports start. And I shouldn't say this, but we've been lucky, we've had a full staff for pretty much the whole school year, so we've been very fortunate. Yeah, yeah.
any questions? You all done?
I'm done.
Okay, I thought you were,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't Russian. Any questions for Kenny? Thank you, you guys do an awesome job.
Kenny, I told Randy I thought we'd be done by 8. He's been here for Scott all day. Do you wanna let him know he could go and we'll just manage to shut things up?
Yeah. I don't need a cookie. I wish there was a pea. Oh, do I gotta look at what you got going?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you totally up to you, totally up to you.
I usually listen to you.
You usually listen to me, okay. Just gonna give you a budget update because I just want you to know what I know at this point, which I'm always very little. So as I said last time, we always start with how do we support our strategic plan, what's best for our students, how do we support our current employees, and how do we respond to community concerns? So we do have some positives. As I said last time, the state does intend to pay 55% of EPS. We have the 277,500 for our balance forward, so we're not starting in the hole. As Kenny noted, we locked in heating, fuel, and diesel. We have a significant increase in our preliminary ED 279. I'm going to say this number out loud.
You are?
I am. So our increase on our preliminary is over 830,000. Well, that's the.
You got dead
Yeah,
flat?
however, right?
What's that?
Is there the however coming up?
There's a however coming up.
I know.
There we
Yeah.
go. So here are my unknowns. We have 2 contracts that are currently being negotiated. So that means salaries and benefits for both of those groups, as well as all of the stipends. We have a probable insurance increase. We've been told to plan on at least 12%, so we put 12 in there initially. We're not going to know in time for this budget. We have a probable increase in our property and casualty insurance. Also, we're looking at 12%. I have limited confidence in the preliminary ED 279. I did ask at a superintendent's meeting, I asked the Maine Department of Education, how much confidence can I have in my preliminary ED 279? And there was a deep sigh from the person representing the Department of Education, and then a huge hesitation. And I will tell you that the air came right out of that room, because I think all of us superintendents, we've had a history of being able to rely on our preliminary, but the budget is not passed at the state level. So it's hard to bank on what I just said about the $830,000. I have concerns around federal funding, so Title I and local entitlement. As you know, there's a bit of a showdown happening, and Title I is just over $500,000, and local entitlement is just over $250,000. So together, we're looking at $750,000 that I'm not sure when it will come, if it will come. We do not yet know the Region 9 costs. We have not heard anything from Region 9 on what their increase will be. So with all that, we just want to remind you, we won't know our insurance until April 11th. We'll know the maximum on March 28th. So I'm hoping at that point we can maybe back down from the 12%, but I'm not sure. So moving forward, this is Mary's like, you need to be clear in all of this. I am going to show you what we have in very rough numbers. These are estimates with preliminary ED 279s as well as increases in contracts and other things. So to maintain what we currently have in RSU 56, nothing new, exactly the staff and the programs that we have, you're looking at a 6.78% budget to budget increase. And reminder, these are rough figures. I'm gonna say that every time Mary looks at me. And payroll and benefits alone right now would be a 4.06% increase. Oops. I lost control of this. So the impact on our 4 towns with a 6.78% budget to budget rough increase. Canton would see a decrease of 0.856. Carthage would see a decrease of 1.614. Dixfield would see an increase of 4.927, and Peru an increase of 2.243. Again, these decreases, and I don't know if you call them relatively small increases compared to a 6.78% budget to budget, is because of that additional ED 279 of 838,000 something. So you heard the add-ons. Well, you haven't quite heard from Mr. Keene yet. You will hear from him next time. But he's looking for a network manager and IT specialist. That would be about 90,000, which is a 0.63 impact of the budget. Jericho High School, you heard from Mrs. Thompson that she's looking for some after-school mentoring program that was funded by Maine West previously that she'd like to continue. BGT, as you just heard from Kenny, looking for $10,000 for half of the GPS system to get half of his buses outfitted and 26,000 for those exterior doors, for a total of 135,685. That total of all the add-ons would be a 0.95% increase to the budget, which I'm sure you'd like to know what that means. So at 7.73, again, rough numbers, Canton would see a 1.098 increase, Carthage 0.278, Dixfield 7.287, and Peru 4.395. And because I've worked for you now for 8 years, and you know you want to see what various impacts would be on our towns. So here we go. If you chose to go lower than that 6.73 that we started with, if you wanted to go down to 6% budget to budget, Canton would see a decrease of 2.456. Carthage would see a decrease of 3.162. Dixfield would see an increase of about 3%, and Peru would see a decrease of about 0.5%. We would need to cut $111,043.18. And just because I like to plan ahead, had my administrative team looking at this today, and I just want to be clear, at $111,000, you are looking at programs and positions. We have skinnied this budget, which I'll talk about when you see the increases over the last 8 years. We no longer have anything to provide other than programs and positions. So this 111,000 would be a number of like stipend position programs after school, as well as potentially 1 or 2 positions. If you wanted to go to 5%, I'm not going to read them all to you, but you could see that Canton would be down about 4.5%. Carthage would be down about 5.1%. Dixfield would have an increase of about 0.5%. Peru would have a decrease of about 1.8%.
Quick question.
Yep.
These are not including the add-ons, are they?
These are not included in the add-ons.
That's what
These are from that.
Right.
Yep. This would require $253,861 cuts. So then you're talking about a number of programs as well as potentially 3 to 4 positions. If you wanted to get to 4%, Canton would see a decrease of over 6.5%. Carthage would see a decrease of over 7%. Dixfield would see a decrease of about 2%, and Peru would see a decrease of about 4%. This would require $396,680 in cuts. So we're looking at potentially 6 positions and or programs to get there. Barbara had mentioned in passing that she wanted to see 3.
Well, I didn't know that it
She
was
didn't know what
negative.
I was asking for, but I do tend to try to deliver to whatever I can. So at 3.5%, Canton would be almost a 7.6% decrease, Carthage would be an over 8% decrease, Dixfield would be over 3%, and Peru would be over 5% decrease. Again, this is all because of that additional ED 279. We would be looking at almost $470,000 in cuts. So we're talking 8 to 10 positions as well as a number of programs. I know that some people like to see them all together. I did the blue just because that's what it would be, just to maintain what we have currently for next year. The 7.73 obviously is with the add-ons that you heard, and then those are the other 4 options that Mary and I put together.
Well, you got that, no,
Sorry.
you're gonna talk to it, but I'm gonna ask it in case you don't. So if you were to take any of those columns, well, I'm gonna use Dixfield as a representative. From the first one all the way through the rest of them, what were you talking about, say, on a standard $100,000 house? What would be the increase to someone's taxes at 7.2, 4.9, 2.9, 0.5?
So Mary and I never estimate that. When the board decides they want to be somewhere between here, here, and here, give us 3 options. Mary calls the towns and we get them directly from the towns. Because we don't know what your, tax rates are gonna be in each of your 4 towns.
See, that's,
Mary, do you want to add anything more to that?
because that's a lot of times where you'll get the question is, what is this gonna cost me? Some people might sit there and say, wow, 7.2 or 4.9 is gonna be horrendous increase, and you find out it's only gonna be, $50 more, or $75 more in a year.
If the
But
board tells me tonight where they think they want to be, we will get that information for you. I just don't want to ask the town to do 7.73 and 6.78 and 6 and 5, because they do have to recalculate it every time they do it.
Because the town's doing the budget starting now, that we're in the budget, so we don't know what the mill rate's gonna be.
Well, I mean, I know Dixfield, we went up 200 last year, my taxes. So mine,
But last year was a significant increase. We put it to the voters, we let them decide, they voted to go ahead and increase. But I think going forward with all that's requested would be a really hard pill to swallow this year for taxpayers. I won't lie to you. I think it would be tremendous, because mine went up a couple $100.
Yeah.
too.
I like where the 5% is negative, because that wasn't last year. But I don't know if it's because of,
It's because of the increase of ED 279, and the reason Dixfield is seeing the highest increases is because their evaluation.
because we had a big evaluation last year.
In the barrel.
Yeah. And not knowing what, and I know Dixfield is not, they're trying to do things they should have done many, many years ago. Thank God we have someone that's trying to do it.
I'm gonna move on. So I just like to show you the historical budget increases. So in 2017-18 is when 56 started, obviously.
Yeah.
And you had a budget of $12,959,164. And because Jason is kind of data savvy and can I call him geeky if he's not here? He's kind of a geek like that. He took that $12,959,000 and he just put it through the calculator of like, what is that money worth now? And it was over 17 million. So we have really worked to keep us as tight as we could for as long as we could. So you can see we had a 1.5, a 3.5, a 2.02, a 0, a 1.85, 2.64. Last year, we did have that 5.3. This year's rough is 6.78. Those first years, when you're staying at 3% and under, you are nickel and diming everything from every line you have. And that's what you did. You wanted to be there. We did it. Your administrative team did as directed. And we have made this lean. And so that's why at 6.78% this year, to move down from that you literally need to know you're talking about programs and positions, because there's no like, we're not gonna go in there and find $500 here and $300 there. It's not there anymore.
At 6%, how many positions are gone?
At 6%, we'd be looking at, I'm gonna go back to that, because I can't remember what I can tell you when I see that. So 6% is 111,000, so we'd be talking about probably two positions at
How
that.
many at 5 do you estimate?
At 5, I would estimate we're looking at 4 positions and a couple of programs.
That would,
When you say programs, you're talking about sports.
So the administrative team started looking at this. There's a potential that we would offer up a sport that had pretty limited amounts of participants in it. We also were looking at extra and co, so anything like, I just don't wanna say anything out loud right now because I haven't talked to any employees or
no,
anyone who has
yeah,
any,
absolutely.
you know what I mean? But we would be looking at programs and positions at that point.
Things that are not being, because we offer a lot, which I'm glad to offer.
So we have a number of things out of our control, like the Title ones.
Well, that we can't
The stuff we're
afford.
obligated to, and then any contractual obligations we create with bargaining units. That's where we're kind of hung over a barrel.
In a lot of ways, like I'm gonna go to that next, so I'm not gonna go to that next, I will skip to and come back. So this is what you have for historical negotiated increases over the years. So you can see that most years, from when you started until 24, 25, basically, you were looking at pretty small increases for our employees, like 2% pretty regularly. Last year, they were negotiated at 5%. And I know that sounds like a lot for our towns, but we have to be, our strategic plan says we want to be able to hire people and keep people. And when you have some of the lowest salaries around, it's hard to think you're gonna continue to hire people. So moving those that 5% in the 24, 25 negotiated year, it was necessary in order to hire
And
people.
we
and to keep
also
people.
stayed within the state guidelines, that's been mandated.
And there are some obviously that you can see that we don't know, because those are the ones that are currently being negotiated, so I can't tell you what the increases are for a couple of the groups, but.
My one comment is with the 12% property, the insurance, the liability. If I got a 12% increase, I'd be shopping. Cause I shop when they tried 7% on me, and I know it's harder to shop for property, but.
The MSMA controls that contract in there for the districts, but the 12% increase, I would bet money doesn't represent actual costs that they're incurring.
Yeah, and we don't know what it's gonna be, like that's what we're putting in for a holding one. I do wanna sweep back,
shop.
I skipped this one, because I think it's important to know, like, it's changed over time, like even when we had really small increases, some of our towns had huge, big increases because of their valuations at the time. So if you look down the first blue row, you can see Canton over the 8 years that we've been here. But overall, they've had an average of 7.69% increase.
Yes.
Carthage, they were hit really hard through their windmill years. They had an overall average of 11.48. But theirs would be down significantly this year because they kind of corrected that piece. Dixfield has had an average of 3.91 over the years, Peru 3.14. So, I mean, we've tried really hard to impact our towns as little as possible while also providing a top quality education for their students. So this timeline hasn't changed. We'll hear the rest of the budget presentations from technology, nutrition, and all other areas to March 11th. On March 25th, I will invite people from all the towns personally to come and really talk about where you want to be. We do have April 1st as a snow date for that. We had previously April 8th as your time for you to vote on the board to vote on the budget. I'm asking tonight if you would consider adding a board meeting on April 29th. We didn't have our second one because this was vacation. But April 29th, at least we'll have maximum increases under our belt. So it will at least kind of pull you in a little bit more on that budget vote, because as hard as this has been for both Mary and I, and the administrative team building this with so many unknowns, we have to stay to a somewhat of a timeline, but I'd like to get as much information to you that's real and concrete before you're asked to vote. So if you're willing to do that, I'd love to add it April 29th.
Yeah.
Yes, because I think that gives us time.
More information too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
And then, obviously, I put up here, if you have any initial thoughts on which way we should be going. And then, as always, I'd love to hear from community members. They can email, call me. They could stop and knock on the door at the White House, but I do try to get out and about, so it's probably better if they want to come and see me to plan ahead and call. But
Brad,
I'd like to see 5%.
I think that's where I would like.
that's where I put two, and I was 3.5 till I saw the thing.
And I think that's still gonna be a push,
Yeah.
but
But it's a good,
there's a
that
balance between like the reality that this is not a great situation.
And our economy is not great.
The concern is that we have a premium ED 279, that is no guarantee.
Yeah.
We have feds right now challenging Title I. We have increases that we have no knowledge of what they will be. And to ask for a number that you want me to give you right now, I can't do that.
And our state budget's already in the hole.
To me, it's a starting point,
starting.
I mean,
point.
like 7%.
Good.
I mean,
No.
you can give a
That's
guesstimate,
Yeah.
and that's where we're starting.
And this is, like I said, these are rough numbers, these are an estimate, but for the
But you're
administrative
pretty
team
sharp. on
to
it.
start, I said to them today, I think this budget, for the first time since I've been the superintendent here, we have to build it like multiple onions. So you got it going, if you want 5%, then the administrative team is going to prepare for, this is what we know right now. They want 5%, we're gonna build and we'll figure out what we have to peel off that. If we don't get Title I or IDEA numbers, then we have to have this other onion that we gotta peel off and say, like, what are we gonna take out of this to keep us at 5%? We just need some sort of direction to know how many onions do we need to take? I guess the
If
question.
you look at a 5% increase, that 5% increase could vary of what you really are looking for an increase or what you're really decreasing. Because if certain things don't come through, that 5% increase is gonna need a bigger decrease to get there.
I would agree to that statement, yeah, but that's what we have to do as your administrative team. Like, when we get information, even between now and the next meeting, if we get new information, we're gonna start like recalculating. I force them to start making lists today, like, if this, what are we gonna take out of this budget? Because we have to be prepared as the administrative team to be able to react pretty swiftly to whatever information comes in and where this board wants to be. And I honestly, like, this has been really hard for both Mary and I, because we're dealing with so many uncertainties as we're building this budget, that I said to the administrative team, we're just gonna make different scenarios. If this happens, this is what we're doing. If this happens, this is what we're doing. If this happens, because we can't wait until
No,
we may not know our federal money.
Just for a long
June
time.
10th goes to vote. Like, that's a distinct possibility that we still don't know. Because I don't have a crystal ball. I would expect this is probably gonna go through a court system. And how long that takes, nobody knows. So like, we just have to, we need you as a board to give us some general direction. So we know how many different pots we need to be thinking about, because as I stood up here and people asked about programs, I don't ever wanna talk about a cut here without talking to the employee that it's impacting.
that's embarrassing.
Before I'm standing
Sad.
up here, like, I have to have the time frame to be able to do that. And I told the administrative team already, I'm sorry, if you have anybody resign, which I'm gonna give some out tonight, I'm not posting positions. I'll post as long-term subs, I'm not hiring somebody to lay them off in 2 months. Like, I don't know what's happening with everything, and it's a very, I'll be honest, it's a very uncomfortable position for your superintendent to be in, to be building a budget with so many unknowns, but we have to just build it the best we can. And
I think it sounds like you're tiering it and trying to make the best sense of it, and I think as time goes on, maybe it makes more sense, maybe it just sounds insane. I don't know, but to me, that seems like the best approach. Without exhausting unnecessary time on the
So if you're telling us like we're thinking 5% and we come back and we don't have an ED 279, you're gonna get half of what we thought, then we may have to do some last minute adjustments if you feel like that's too much of an impact to the towns, but we have to have something to, as a target. If you could just.
When I
Just give us that.
looked at what you gave, 5% was the most comfortable I was with, because I like seeing, but I do know it may need to change if, you know, your prelim is. Or if the good, you know, I know things, that's why doing the April late thing gives us the time. But, I think that gives us, because we know we took a big stance last year. And this at least showing a negative, but like you said, it is so hard. And,
I told Mary when we started together, when I was the assistant superintendent, because there was not always real numbers that were in the budgets that I was dealing with, and I'm like, we will have real numbers, and then like, we only work off real numbers, and we're building a budget off from real. Projected. I feel like the first time I don't have real numbers that I'm working with.
now, when I went to Augusta, when we were a DOE or a legislative person, I said, what is your issues? I would like the budget not to be Russian roulette every year.
I think.
That hasn't changed.
I think giving us a target, and it seems like consensus, and I can go along at least my percentage of, I could look at the 5%. To give us a target date to get something started on. We always, let's for a change, go on the positive side of it. We may find that insurance comes in at less, we could find that building insurance could come in at less. I will not expect ED 279 to be more, but let's hope that it stays what we're doing. We may actually then be able to put some add-ons. But I think I think right now at 5%, considering historically what we've done over the past years, as well as what we did last year, I think 5% might be something that the towns would be able to swallow. With that being said and done, I would probably then follow up to find out what someone would be talking on increase of their taxes. People like to talk in dollars. 5% means nothing to someone unless they know what it's gonna impact. And that's where we wanna look at is given an impact of what it would be at 5 or what it would be at 6. You might wanna look at, even though we have a target date of 5, what would it be if someone's $100,000 house would be at 4, 5, and 6?
Yeah.
You know, that way you give a little variance into the thing. You give people more information so that you don't have people sitting there going, I don't know what I want to do this. It gives a little more insight.
At 5, did every time decrease?
It did, that's why
No, it wasn't every town, it was the big.
and 5% it was.
Do you still have it up there?
Yep, working on it.
I thought 5 had every negatives.
So that.
So we were close, but. We were.
Oh, that was us. We were in the negative, we were half a
percent.
close. Well, for us, 1 mil.
Anyway. All right, good. That's what I needed.
Okay,
Yeah.
you guys do a great job. They do, it's not the unknown. All right, board member comments.
There's too many unknowns. I have no comment.
It is, it puts you just thinking,
I think this year was a great sports year, the ending of the basketball, I lost 10 years of my life. Oh my God, lost my voice once.
There's some very talented young people in our community. We really do.
Bruce,
I hope everybody enjoyed being able to finally see Region 9. I don't know if there's some of this is the first time some of you have been there. It's quite the complex. I wish we would have had more time to take you through the main building. You got to see our new programs, but the main building it's unreal what the programs that they offer at this school. This school is keeping a lot of students in school. So I know in her budget, her little overview of question of what Region 9's cost is going to be. Brian and I are on the finance committee. We're working through that, so we don't have numbers yet as well. But it is something that is a very valuable asset for these communities. and it supports all 16 towns that are involved in it, so.
Awesome. Any other? All right, superintendent's report.
So obviously, last week was school vacation week. It was a well-earned and well-deserved rest for staff and students. I did spend time at the middle school today. I was really impressed with the fact that when I literally went in and went up towards Sarah Bragdon's to the right, and then I went all the way around the whole school, and I just stayed like 5 or 10 minutes in each class. And I was hearing consistency in the messaging from each and every staff member around. The one thing I heard specifically was, okay, I'm just waiting because you need to raise your hand so that we're not all talking at once. Like, it was, every classroom was working on the same expectation. And that really is a hallmark of BAR, like having consistent expectations across the school, because that helps with managing behaviors. So kudos to Stacy as the BAR coordinator, but also to the whole middle school staff, because that's gonna change. Change is hard and it takes a long time. And I think sometimes when you're living it, you don't see it or feel it. But I literally could feel it when I walked through the rooms today, which was great. I want to give a shout out to Mary. She completed the nearly impossible directive to provide a draft budget over the break, the budget to budget increase. I told her I'd be waiting for it Monday morning when she walked through the door. Actually, she gave it to me on Friday.
Oh.
So she was ahead of it. And I just want to say publicly again, you know it, I know it. Mary is a treasure. Like, her work is impeccable and she is a huge asset to this district. And as Brian prepares, I'm gonna just go through some other things. We have some stipend and coaching positions. Gunnar Bradbury will be our Darrell High School head track and field coach. Megan Morrison will be the assistant track and field coach at the high school. Scott Robbins will come in as the Darrell High School varsity softball coach. We do have some resignations. Sorry, Brian, it'll take you a little longer than I thought. Sonia Blaisdell, she is a nutrition staff worker at the middle school. She's retiring at the end of the school year. Sonia has provided over 20 years of service and Derigo, and she'll really be missed. James Taylor is currently the phys ed and health teacher at the middle school. He is taking a position outside of education.
Okay.
He'll be leaving March 28th of this year. He really is a gifted PE and health teacher, and it was sad to see him leave, but obviously we'll wish him nothing but the best. Craig Collins has resigned as a high school football coach. After many successful years with us, he's decided to resign here. We wish him the best.
Yeah.
I do not know this as fact, but I hear that he's moving on to Mount Blue.
That's what I heard.
I don't know that's true or not. Natalie Putnam is the Derigo Elementary School nutrition manager. She's retiring at the end of the school year. She has been in our nutrition department for 28 years. Think about all the students that she's fed in 28 years. She will also be seriously missed. Barb Vaughn let me know today that she's the head custodian at the elementary school. She's retiring next January, 2026.
Okay, next January.
She will have had 27 years of service here. She's been an essential part of Derigo Elementary School, and I thank her immensely for her service. These people will let me know because they have a March 1st deadline, and it's gonna be because of when they're retiring, it's a little odd. And Terry Cox, Building Grounds and Transportation Administrative Assistant. She says she's retiring in February 2026. I told her return to sender, address unknown when she got the But she spent 14 years keeping Kenny straight. She's probably earned knighthood in that time. She's willing to train her successor, so we have put in the budget a little bit so there'll be some overlap, and she will be sorely missed. With that, Mr. Keene, I will. hand it over to
You said Barbara Vaughn, she's DHS or DES? Okay, that's
DES.
here.
Did I? Oh, sorry. My administrative
No,
assistant is
she's
not.
in
here as good as she is.
DS.
That's secretary.
She is not that great.
Well, I was trying to remember when Terry was the secretary for the superintendent.
All right, so I'll be quick. You'll hear more from me next meeting when I do the budget. But just a quick update for our department. We've done a lot of work, as I'm sure you may have seen the email that I've sent out to staff about network issues or changes coming through the pipeline. Over break, we spent all day Wednesday for our network upgrade. We completed about 85 or so % of the network upgrade. So all of our equipment has been upgraded. We have one more piece to go that will probably be done during April break. But we're very close to having that completed. That's the project that we received an E-rate grant for. So a majority of that will be paid for by the federal E-rate system. And then a little bit of that comes out of our capital reserve account that the towns voted for last year. Along with that, our Rust grant, the one we just received and you guys voted on, is starting in motion. I'm filing some paperwork with E-rate, creating some reimbursement accounts and things like that. Hopefully here in the next week or so, I'll get to start working with Mary on our procedure for ordering equipment and how we're gonna work with the other districts to get that equipment started and get the money flowing and project up and going. Other than that, we're working through budget like everybody else, and trying to figure out some possible changes in devices for our high school students, not this coming year, but the year after, because our high school devices are out of warranty this summer. So we're looking at what to do next here at the high school level, whether we stay laptop or go iPad with a keyboard, or what solution we may look at going forward. But that's some of what we're doing. Any questions?
Did we put money aside to do some of these upgrades for technology? I know we put somebody in a grant in some type of fund.
Yeah, so Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, we put, there were 2 years that the board put funds in the technology capital reserve account. I believe there was a total of 400,000. And the vote last year was to take up to 200 for the network project. So there'll be, and then some, whatever we get back from the E-rate reimbursement will go back into that.
It will go back into that. Okay,
Correct.
good.
Yeah, so rough guess, I'll say 300-ish thousand, depending on what we get back for reimbursement rates, and assuming we don't get shut off on our reimbursement before that happens.
Get your paperwork in.
The problem is we can't submit for the full amount until the project is complete.
Until it's done.
So we have to go through the last replacement item that we have on the deck, and then we have a couple other items to do before that. But my goal is right after April break to hopefully get the reimbursement stuff done.
Any other questions for Brian? Thank you, short and sweet. All right, committee report, student rep.
Thinking I forgot to put him on the email when I sent out the.
Oh, poor guy.
Probably it doesn't.
I'm surprised.
That's my fault.
Policy committee, we have a meeting March. We emailed 11th.
Right before the board meeting.
Okay, finance committee.
Wow, Mary's on it.
Okay, curriculum.
Got nothing for you right now.
Okay, building and grounds,
Yeah, Matt.
negotiations,
I'll be informing you.
yeah. Personnel, Natalie's not here, not hiring. Ad hoc is March.
Yeah, we got a meeting coming up. I forget the date. but
Me
it's
too.
a lot to-
Yeah.
It's somewhere in March. Next meeting will know.
Okay,
March 6th.
March C, I can't remember. Oh, thank you. How did that go?
Yeah. I would say it's fortunate that we don't have a big dropout rate. I think there was a lot of great discussion about ideas to get parents engaged. That's really the question of the night. And, you know, how can each individual school offer opportunities for parents to get involved beyond what have been the standard ones?
Yeah.
There was a bunch of discussion. I like to think that Barrett, Charlie, maybe could attest, he's here. Kind of real life, what are the real life problems we're running into? And so we're all gonna come back. We're gonna have our meeting earlier than we had planned in May. We're gonna have a meeting in what, 30 days, 3 weeks?
March 25th.
March 25th, yeah, at 5. And we're gonna talk about maybe some ways that we could engage every day to try to improve results.
Sounds good.
Project.
And I do know that adult ed is doing much better this year. Dave, you know what I mean? That has been,
He's inviting, he's gonna come to one of
Yeah.
our meetings to give an update.
he is doing really well.
Yeah.
All right. We are on to enter into executive session pursuant to one MRSA subsection 45(6)(b) for a contract matter between DEA and RSU56. Could I have a motion,
So moved.
please? Brad, second.
Second.
Bruce, all those in favor?
Do it.
Thank you. We'll pick up and then we'll get in. Yes.
Okay. I think that-
You're on.
You ready?
Yeah, they've already written.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Second. All those in favor? Good night.
Good night.